Hello, my name is James Ford and this is my evaluation for AS Media Portfolio. I decided to create an indie alternative magazine cover, contents page and double page spread. I did this with the help of my primary research I carried out on SurveyMonkey and other secondary research. I carried out a lot of primary research and secondary research in order to find out the best target audience for my selected products. After reviewing my SurveyMonkey posts and looking for a lot of secondary research, namely the circulation and readership figures of well-known indie magazines such as NME and Kerrang!, I decided that my primary target audience for my product would be males and females aged between 18 to 24 years of age. My primary research from SurveyMonkey results also showed me that my primary target audience would be white and of any sexuality, as because I did not plan on making my magazine overly expensive either, the social grade I needed to target was middle and lower class people in social grade C1 to E. Overall, the audience feedback I received gave me a lot of useful information about the demographic I needed to pitch my products at, and from my research I found out who I needed to work hard to represent and appeal to. I also found out that there is a potential market for my magazine because I found out music magazines are still fairly popular and get read once a month. Not only did I use my primary research to help me work out what I needed to include on my cover, content and double page spread, I also used secondary research into representation stereotypes and existing indie magazines to get inspiration and guide my creativity because, as the theorist Bentley said in 1997, the creative process is rearranging the old to create the new. In other words, in my planning stages I analysed existing covers, content pages and double page spreads from Kerrang!, Q and NME to learn what media language to use to attract my target audience and make my cover look professional in a way that meets the required standard expected by a real target audience. I started by researching covers and the first thing I looked at was mastheads. I concluded that I had to think of a catchy but not too cheesy masthead to follow the genre codes and conventions I had seen in professional magazines. After brainstorming ideas and getting primary research feedback from my target audience, I eventually came up with a name, Lo-Fi. Lo-Fi is very commonly linked with the lexical and semantic fields of my genre. It is catchy and is very easy to remember. I put it in capitals, except the I, across the top left of my magazine cover in a strong, bold, modern font in a colour that contrasts the background image. I made these creative choices because it followed conventions of magazines like NME and Q, and because I really wanted my masthead to stand out and be easily recognisable for my potential customers. Overall, I'm very pleased with the effect because I think my masthead really stands out from my background, making it successful. The layout of my magazine fits all the common codes and conventions of any popular and successful magazine cover. I have a large masthead at the top, as I've mentioned, and a large clear centre image which stands out and captures the attention of my potential audience because it is interesting shot of a star vehicle who represents them and their music taste. Just below the centre image is my main story and I have teasers in the sweet spot. For the teasers I made sure I followed the typography conventions I had seen on professional indie magazines by keeping the style modern. I followed Lexis conventions to represent my target audience because I used informal language from the semantic field of indie music. In short, when looking at my magazine cover side by side with professional magazines from the same genre like NME and Kerrang!, you can see that I have represented my target audience by following a similar codes and conventions to ones used on professional covers. And this means potential customers will be able to successfully recognise my cover is for indie magazine, which makes it work in terms of layout. The colour palette I used was the same throughout all the cover, content and double page spread I created, and those colours were black, yellow and white. Black and white really work well together as these two colours make each other stand out. The yellow also works really well with the black as the same reasons as the white. I chose this colour palette because it followed conventions I had seen repeatedly on NME and Kerrang!, and because these colours have the right connotations and represent my target audience as black connotates rebellion and danger, which links to negative stereotypes of youth, Stanley Hall wrote in 1904. Black and white connotate the light and dark nature of youth stereotypes, which links to mixed metaphors Dick Hebridge argued in 1988 concerning youth being portrayed as trouble and fun. And yellow connotates reading the magazine will meet the Blummer and Kate's need for entertainment, as yellow is seen as a colour that represents happiness. I also think that these colours create a power impact when used together because they contrast and stand out from each other, which makes the magazine stand out more. My colour palette was also partly based on colours drawn from my main image. I only used one main image on my magazine cover because this was a convention I had seen in professional magazine covers that I thought worked well for my target audience. I did some studio shoots and some outdoor shoots before I decided on which final image to use. I decided on an image of my male star vehicle taken on an outdoor shoot because I thought the mise-en-scène followed indie genre conventions better than my studio shots. Even though I think the image follows conventions, I think my photography could have been more professional and creative because even though I got the shots in focus, I think I could have improved the framing and lighting to appeal to my target audience more. Overall, I'm satisfied with my magazine cover because it follows the common codes and conventions of a music magazine cover from the indie genre in ways that would attract and appeal to my target audience. However, in hindsight, I think I should have challenged a few conventions to make my cover stand out more. When doing my contents page, I wanted to follow similar codes and conventions to my own cover and to existing indie magazine contents page so that it would match my cover in terms of brand style and look very professional. Again, I started the process by looking at other magazines in my genre like Kerrang and NME to learn what media language would attract and appeal to my target audience. Out of the contents page, I looked and I found Kerrang contents pages to be the most eye-catching because they caught my attention straight away. As I am in my own target audience, I decided that following similar conventions to the ones used by Kerrang would be the best way to create a piece which would stand out against everyone else's. So I analysed Kerrang contents page further before doing my own flat plans. I came up with a layout after playing around for a while with different ideas that I was happy with, then set about turning this into a real content page with my flat plan. I decided to take and use one powerful image to dominate the top half of the contents page as this was a convention I had seen and liked. Even though I did have a fairly large image, I didn't use one that took up more than 50% as it would look more like a cover than a contents page, and I wanted to follow the right conventions for what I was creating. I think using a big image above the text attracts and represents my target audience because it shows the magazine will have lots of high quality images of indie stars and stereotypically young people who want to read magazine for entertainment and information do not want much text as they have a good balance between images and information. I split the image from the text below with a text box that contains the masthead in it, and this was again a convention I seen that I thought worked well because it let me bring my colour palette from the cover and included my masthead to remind the audience what my magazine could bring them, the exciting stories. The colour palette and masthead represent and attract my audience here in the same way as the cover. In the bottom half of the page, I included columns containing my stories with page numbers next to them. This again follows conventions because all contents pages use page numbers. I also included a page number on my image to show which story this linked to. I believe the stories I included on my contents page are perfect for my target audience as they included the most popular brands and artists from my genre. Linked to the stories I included on my cover and used the right lexis for my youth audience because my language is informal and all links to bands and indie music. I kept the font typography style similar to the cover to link the products and represent the target audience to who would want to see modern and formal fonts. Initially, I was going to leave my contents page like this, but after looking at it again after a few days, I realised it needed something else to give it a more professional feel that followed conventions. So I decided to add a subscription box. I am happy with the result of adding this because I think it really lifted the quality and professionalism of the contents page through making the layout look more visually interesting. Finally, I started my double-page spread research and construction. Again, I looked for inspiration through analysing professional double-page spreads in Kerrang, NME and Cube. I found this the hardest of the three pieces to get right and master because it was the newer to me as I've never made a double-page spread before and I've done covers and contents for GCSE media and the prelim task. After hours of research, I managed to set on some ideas I want to develop into flat plans. After approaching the task with a positive and strategic mindset, I came up with a flat plan that I felt I could develop into a successful double-page spread that would follow conventions and attract my target audience. I used a main image to fill the majority of my page, then worked on creating a successful layout around this. I added a title in an interesting rebellious typography style to attract and represent my audience. I adjusted colours and brightness on the image, then put my Photoshop work into InDesign to add the columns and article text. I think my article follows the conventions and attracts a target audience because it is about a well-known indie artist. included some Q&A and is written in an informal tone. After creating all 3 of my products, I can definitely see my strengths and my weaknesses too. I am confident that I have completed the tasks in a way that shows I can successfully follow the existing 2 conventions of the indie music magazine genre to make my work look professional and appealing to my target audience. But I think I should have taken more risks and broken more conventions to make my work stand out more. Also, I think I need to develop my photography skills because even though they have improved this year from GCSE, I still think I have a long way to go in this area.